The Supreme Court today declared Sharia courts as illegal, a very crucial case the Supreme Court was hearing, and ruled that Sharia courts do not have legal sanction, but they stopped short of describing them as unconstitutional. The Supreme Court held that a fatwa must be issued only when a concerned party approaches a Sharia court and not when a third party seeks intervention. The Supreme Court, however, left no room for doubt when it rules that these Sharia courts have no legal sanction, maintaining that every religion talks about a concept of justice and no one can be punished without a hearing. All right, let's cut across for a larger understanding. We are still, of course, awaiting the copy of the judgment, which will shed more light on what exactly the Supreme Court observed. But for a larger understanding, I'd like to cut across to our executive editor, Javed Ansari, who's joining us from the newsroom at this point of time. Javed, can you break down this ruling for us?
Preeti, we are waiting for the finer details to emerge from the Supreme Court. But what we do know is that the Supreme Court has categorically stated in its judgment that there is no concept, there is no legality to Sharia courts. There is, the courts of India, the judicial system of India is competent enough to adjudicate on all issues of concerning Indian citizens. So there is no room for any extra constitutional court, whether it is a Sharia court or any such thing. As far as fatwas is concerned, we are still not exactly clear on what it says. Right. Because it's also observed that while you cannot have a blanket ban, there are certain beliefs. It has to be a halfway between mediation and arbitration. So we'll have to await details to emerge from the court. But what we do know is that as far as Sharia courts are concerned, they have no legal sanctity in India.
All right, do stay on with us at this point of time, Javed. As our executive editor was pointing out, for a larger understanding of the ruling, we have to wait for the copy of the judgment. We are awaiting that to break down for our viewers on what exactly the Supreme Court observed today. But joining us at this point of time for perspective is Mr. Arif Khan, former Union Minister. Mr. Khan, what do you make of the Supreme Court ruling?
First, you tell me what is the Supreme Court ruling?
Sir, in effect, it has called the Sharia courts illegal, just about falling short of calling them unconstitutional. We, of course, are awaiting the copy.
I don't know why you are using this language. How Shariat constitution something can be constitutional?
No, it's not. They're not calling it unconstitutional, sir. They've called the Sharia courts illegal.
You have not read the judgment. Therefore, you are saying this. Sharia courts cannot be constitutional, they cannot be even legal, because only a body institution which has been set up by an act of parliament can carries the sanctity of the constitution behind it.
They are not the court. I'm not saying that, sir. They are not calling it unconstitutional. They are not called the Supreme Court has not termed Sharia courts as unconstitutional. They have termed them illegal.
If they have not,
they have no legal standing.
Please listen to me.
Yes.
If they have not called it, then that must not be questioned before them. Otherwise, these Sharia courts are totally unconstitutional and illegal.
Do stay on with us. I'd like to bring in Javed Ansari, our executive editor, who wants to pose a question to you. Go ahead, Javed.
Arif Saab, in your understanding of law, what does this mean? Are we correct in assuming that it has clearly ruled that there is no legal sanctity to Sharia courts?
There is, in fact, you are talking of Sharia courts which do not find mention in any statute passed by the parliament. The government has not recognized even the qazis to give the judicial verdict. What we are discussing.
Absolutely right,
sir. These are totally these are, I would say, this is a total an institutional arrangement which has been created by the clergy to exploit the innocent and poor masses.
Absolutely. So there is no room for clergy now to arbitrate or interfere on issues.
No. There will always be room for the clergy as long as what hungry politicians will keep patronizing them.
Right, Arif Saab. But, one of the observations made by the learned judges is that there cannot be, as far as fatwas are concerned, it has to be a fine line because it concerns people's beliefs. So it has to be a fine line between arbitration and mediation. Can you deconstruct this for us?
what Supreme Court says, Supreme Court, the words which you are using, if Supreme Court has used the same words, then I would say that they have taken a cautious line. Otherwise, even from Islamic viewpoint, purely Islamic viewpoint, fatwa is not a legally binding edict. At the most, it can be called opinion of scholars. And in fact, those who are engaged in the academic activity, in the teaching of students, during the time of Hazrat Umar, he issued a circular asking them not even to issue fatwas. He said, this is for these matters belong to the judiciary who have the power to enforce their writ. You have no business to issue any fatwa in any matter.
Mr. Khan, do you see any ramifications which will whittle down post the Supreme Court ruling? Once again, we are awaiting the copy of the judgment, but do you see any ramifications of this ruling?
What ramifications?
For the people, for the innocents, that's what in terms of what the Supreme Court has said. Do you see any ramifications, or do you make anything of the Supreme Court ruling at all?
I think we should welcome it, and I feel that there should be, in the light of this judgment of the Supreme Court, I have not seen the judgment, but I would be more happy if Supreme Court had also given a direction to prosecute those who and file cases against them and prosecute them who indulge in this business of fatwa and make the life of innocent, illiterate people difficult.
Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Arif Muhammad Khan. Once again, we want to tell our viewers that we are awaiting the final copy of that judgment, which will shed more light, especially on the issue of fatwa. But constant coverage on the story. Javed Ansari, our executive editor, is still with us at this point of time. Javed, the initially what we can make from the Supreme Court ruling is, and that's what we can confirm for our viewers, that Sharia courts have no legal standing. On the issue of arbitration, they are saying that no third party can arbitrate. Of course, we are awaiting the final copy of the judgment, which will shed more light on what exactly the Supreme Court has observed.
You are spot on, Preeti. Absolutely. There is no room, no legal sanctity for Sharia courts. There is only one law of the land, and that is the learned judges which educate on that. There cannot be separate laws for separate people, and Sharia courts, absolutely. There is no room, no legal standing as far as they are concerned within the framework of the Indian Constitution.
All right, do stay on with us. Javed Ansari, National Affairs, our executive editor, giving us perspective on this latest development. We're also joined at this point of time. Mr. SQR Ilyas is joining us on the phone line with his perspective. Yeah. And he is the member of the executive committee of the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. So what do you make, Mr. Ilyas, what do you make of the Supreme Court ruling? Once again, we are awaiting the copy of the judgment to throw light on the finer details of fatwa. But in effect, it is called Sharia courts illegal. It's also gone on to say that arbitration cannot happen where a third party comes into play.
You know, madam, actually there are two issues. One is regarding fatwa, another is regarding Darul Qaza. There are two different things. Fatwa is an opinion of an alim or cleric. If a person asks that on this particular issue, what is the opinion of Quran and Sunnah, so then that is an opinion that is not binding. On the contrary, the Darul Qaza is pronouncing a ruling on if both the parties approach Darul Qaza and ask that what is the position of Sharia in this particular issue. So as far as the Darul Qaza is concerned, we have argued in the Supreme Court that Darul Qaza is not a parallel judiciary because Darul Qaza is not issuing anything other than the law of the land. You know, Shariat Application Act is a law of the land. So whenever a person approaches the court, there also, if both the partners are Muslims, then the court generally pronounces the judgment on Shariat Application Act. The same is the case with the Darul Qaza. But and you know that as far as the Darul Qaza's judgment is concerned, it is not binding on the party because it doesn't have any force behind it. Secondly, thirdly, you know, Darul Qaza is, you can say, is a kind of arbitration. Both the parties approach and ask that you decide our issue on the basis of the Sharia. So in India, the arbitration is allowed by the court of law. So Arbitration Act is already there. Thirdly, you know that we have said that in our judiciary, it is always appreciated that there should be to lessen the burden on the court. ADR is already there. That if there are certain other forums by which issue can be decided, we have Bijli Adalat, we have Telephone Adalat, likewise. So ADR approach and concept is already there. So Darul Qaza is nothing but an ADR. So what we are saying.
All right, do stay on with us. Do stay on. All right. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Rescuer Ilyasi. We will keep tracking details of that. Once again, we want to tell our viewers it's a highly sensitive issue. We are still awaiting the copy of the order, the Supreme Court judgment, which will throw further light on what the Supreme Court has said today. But what we can confirm for our viewers, in effect, the Supreme Court has ruled that Sharia courts are illegal. And on the matter of arbitration, the Supreme Court has said that no third party can intervene. We will keep getting our viewers the very latest on that. Constant updates on that story. Our executive editor, Javed Ansari, appreciate you joining us from the newsroom. Jaskirat Singh Bawa getting us the very latest from the court there. So that's in effect the latest that we are getting in at this point of time to give our viewers perspective on this landmark Supreme Court ruling. We are still awaiting the final copy, but hearing a very crucial case, the Supreme Court today ruled that Sharia courts do not have legal sanctions, but it did stop short of describing them as unconstitutional. We will keep getting our viewers the latest updates on that story.